23rd, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call.
Mr. Kaskis?
Here.
Ms. Kachuba? Here. Ms. Tremblay? Here. Ms. Woody?
Here.
Mr. Neese?
Here. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Brady Taylor and Faith Hines Richardson, both North Student House leaders. And I ask that you please remain standing afterwards for a minute of silence.
We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I have a certificate for Brady, and I just want to tell y'all how proud I am of Brady. So when I was at North last year, I knew Brady, and he had to prepare an interview to be a house leader. It's a huge deal, and so I am so proud of you, and we appreciate you being here. And let's let Dr. Llewellyn get a picture.
Yay!
Next item is announcements. I'd like to start off with thanking Vice Mayor Wade for joining us this evening.
Thanks.
Any other announcements? Okay. Do you have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Mr. Kaskis?
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba? Yes. Ms. Tremblay?
Yes.
Ms. Woody?
Yes.
Mr. Neese?
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is our delegations.
So our first delegation this evening is Mr. Gifford Scott, our December 2023 Senior of the Month. So we are going to have the video that was created for Gifford or about Gifford. And then once the video is complete, we'll have him come up with his family and have some pictures and congratulate him all together. Okay, so here we go. There's Gifford Scott.
If you'd like to come on up with your family, we're so proud of you, and congratulations to you and your family, and always fun hearing about the things that you're interested in. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more round of applause.
Next, we have Ben Schroep, our January Senior of the Month.
makes me excited for you to see all the leadership opportunities that you've had and to take advantage of. Congratulations to you and your family. One, two, three.
One more round of applause. Okay, next, Mr. Nix will come down for this. So next, we have the pleasure of, let me put this down for a minute. I'm gonna ask Ms. Moneymaker to join me up here for a minute, and after we talk about her, and JP also. Come on, JP. So, sometimes out of unfortunate events come opportunities for great recognition. And this is one of those. And so I've known Ms. Moneymaker for a minute. 50 minutes. So a few weeks ago, before Christmas, we had the unfortunate event of having a car run into Ms. Moneymaker's bus. And I had the opportunity to watch the video, and it was moving. And the way that she reacted and took care of her kids was amazing. And we're so grateful for you and all that you do. I have some flowers for you. There you go. And we're also grateful for JP and his leadership and all that he does to help kids be safe. He was right there, and Ms. Moneymaker wanted to get back on the bus and drive her elementary kids. Maybe not today, but we are so grateful for, you are representative of y'all's great team of drivers, and thank you for keeping the kids safe.
I can't say enough for the fire department, the police department, and the other drivers that were there that quick to help you.
It was great, yes, and you really took care of your kids and kept people from getting hurt.
If 65 of them could have sat in my lap that afternoon, that's where they would have been.
So, we're grateful for Ms. Moneymaker. Let's give her a round of applause. One, two, three. Sitting right there. Are these the things? I thought you were your whole crowd this morning.
Well, they didn't come on.
Y'all come on, y'all.
They work hard too.
Truly.
There you go. Thanks, Bonnie.
One, two, three. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I share.
Okay, so our next delegation is to recognize our principals, and we had Principals Appreciation Week last week, and we were planning to appreciate them tonight, but Mr. Ridley has a few words to say about that.
No, our principals are more than just leaders. They're the heart of our schools, and so they do a lot. They collaborate with staff, with students, with families to make a productive learning environment. So we appreciate everything they do. We have a special gift that we'll be delivering next week to you guys, and we made it extra special. We had it but we need to make it extra special for you guys. So we'll be around to the schools, but we appreciate all of your leadership and all the things you do. And, you know, we just want to say thank you for everything.
The staff and the students, so really appreciate all.
And then I also wanted to mention that February is School Board Appreciation Month, and we will be appreciating y'all at the February meeting. Dr. Newman is in charge, so.
Next item on the agenda, public comments.
Members of the public may address the board. Any member of the public addressing the board shall approach the lectern, give his name and address in an audible tone of voice for the record, and address the board as a body rather than speak to any member. Unless further time is granted by the board, any member of the public shall address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes, regardless of the number of issues he desires to discuss.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This includes item A, which is the school board meeting minutes. Item B, which is the VSBA continuing policy services contract. And item C, the VSBA code of conduct for school board members. Do you have a motion for adopting the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second. Mr. Kapiskas?
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba?
Yes.
Ms. Tremblay? Yes. Ms. Woody?
Yes.
Mr. Neese?
Yes. Moving on to new business. Item A is the superintendent's budget presentation for 2024-2025 school year.
My tummy is too loud. Okay, so I did a little different twist on the budget presentation because this is supposed to look like a book, A Colonial Goes to School. And the reason it's a book because it's school, right? And so what I'd like to share with you tonight is our budget proposal. And it's kind of a lot of information. And I hope it will be understandable and useful. It's actually loud, it's awful loud. Okay, so, you know, when we think about budgets, they're complex, they have a lot of components, and it's really the financial plan to carry out the strategic plan. In a nutshell, that's what Troy told me I was supposed to say. But, you know, it includes a lot of pieces, and it takes into account board priorities and administrative priorities. It feels like it should just be business and transactional when you think about a budget, but it really is ultimately to serve our students. And so I have some responsibilities directly related to the budget, and that is to prepare a budget, roll up our sleeves and work with the board and have an approved budget that we will share with the city or the city manager for them to consider in their total budget. So what guides us? So those who know me hear me say this all the time, right? Every decision we make in our schools should be made based on what is best for our students. And that's how we approach this budget process, is that we are thinking about our kids and what we need to do to make education in Colonial Heights the best we can for our students. And why does this matter? I'm a lifer, and a lot of y'all are lifers, and Colonial Heights has a long tradition of having great schools. And it's really important. It's important to our city, it's important to our school division, and it's our intention to continue that. We want our kids to graduate from our schools with the skills and knowledge to be successful in their futures. So just like anything, there's a process, and many of y'all know that we start this process in September. Troy creates a budget calendar and brings it to the board. It was approved in in September. And then in December, we invite principals and directors to share with us sort of their wish list. What do they think they need to do education great for our kids? And then in January, the finance department develops the proposed budget. They receive estimates and financial resources using the state calc tool, which by the way was released very late. And then we get estimates of projected city funding and federal allocations. And then I call them the people on the left side of the hallway upstairs. And so the left side sharpens their pencils, they get to work. Right, left side? And so how do we decide what to include? So, I think about stuff a lot and I think, okay, so how do we know what's important? So the first thing we consider is the strategic plan, and that is the school division's 5-year plan. That's what we think we need to be doing and the goals that are set forth for 5 years. In October, we had a board retreat and the school board looked at that strategic plan and they looked at each of the goals in there and they developed priorities as a result. And so we took those priorities and then we took the expressed division needs and wants that were shared by directors and principals. And additionally, we looked at school and division data collectively and independent of each other to see where our strengths are, to see where our needs are. We identified instructional challenges that I'll talk about in just a minute. And then we talked about facility needs. It's no secret. We've had some really old buildings in our division that require a lot of upkeep. Our maintenance department does an amazing job, but it's sometimes costly to keep those buildings healthy. So those are kind of the things that we considered as we were putting this all together. And then we took a look at requirements and challenges. The State Department of Education has some things coming down the pipe that create challenges for teachers and for us instructionally. We have the Virginia Literacy Act, which we are in the big mix of getting that implemented. We have new standards in reading and math coming. We have adoption of new reading and language arts materials, and Dr. Newman's going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. The state is going to be changing their accreditation system. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on how we're measured and what those new benchmarks are going to look like. We don't have any idea yet, but as they come down the pipe, we need to be prepared to respond to those. Chronic absenteeism continues to be a concern, not only as an accreditation measure, but we all know that our kids do better when they're at school. And so looking at those factors that cause our kids to not come to school and see what we can do to help remedy those things. Another consideration, and this is not a new one at all, but shifting demographics in our city. Each year, it seems like we have a greater number of transient students. For kids who begin kindergarten in Colonial Heights and work their way all the way through school, I see some head nodding. Those kiddos, we've got our thumbs on those from the get-go, and they seem to do well. Kids that transfer in often come with some needs, and we just have to be prepared to address those needs as they come. Sometimes it's ESL, sometimes it's Title I, special ed, mental health services, and other instructional supports. And just as we have challenges, we also have strengths, and I think this is really important to identify. What are our strengths as a division? I firmly believe that our greatest asset are our people. We have amazing teachers, we have amazing staff in all departments. We have leaders that are very invested in our students and want to see their departments and their schools grow and do well. We have a super supportive school board. In my first 6 months in this job, there's not a single time that I've called a board member and they haven't been supportive or lent great advice. So I think we have that working for us. We have a memorandum of understanding with the city, and Mr. Wade is very familiar with that. And that helps to support our school division funding. It's very unique to be a superintendent and not to have to go before a city council or a board of supervisors and ask for certain funding for schools. And to have that percentage already granted to us, we are super grateful for it. So thank you, Mr. Wade. And another strength I think we really have is our collaborative relationship with city departments. There's not a single person that I would call in the city and they wouldn't be willing to help. And that's been evident through working with Rebecca Lynch with the Office on Youth, Craig Scalak with the Rec Department, Chief Hoover just recently with all the storms. I mean, it's everywhere, all the time. Anytime I call somebody, they're ready to help, and I think that's true with all of our schools. So as we consider all of those things, we think, okay, what's our priority in this budget? Our priority is we want to show staff their value by doing the best we can to compensate them for their great work. I think that's huge. So I'm gonna have a few slides, I'm gonna talk about compensation. And remember, this is a proposal and the state hasn't finished their budget process yet, so this is subject to be shifted a little as we go through time. But right now, the state has indicated that they will fund a 1% bonus for SOQ funded positions. That would only equal about $130,000 for County Heights Public Schools. And that's only about 60%. So, even if we did a 1% bonus, we would pick up the other 40%. And I can't do the math that quick, but it'd be about $200,000. What we have been able to do is to go beyond that and build a step increase for all employees at approximately 1.8%. This is different from the state's proposal and it is a salary increase. It includes VRS and Social Security, where a bonus would just be a one-time payment on the top of your current salary. So that is significant. The estimated cost for this step increase is right about $607,000. A second piece of the employee compensation proposal is considering non-teaching positions. So for those of y'all that have been here, you may recall that over the last couple of years, there was a lot of work done by the finance department to correct the teacher salary scale. And so now that that has been brought up to speed, it's time to look at the non-teaching positions. We have contracted with Evergreen to complete a market salary study for those positions. And their proposal is to create a 30-step scale and salary correction that would put people on the scale at the appropriate market level. This takes some adjustment and correction. So basically just that correction would be $281,000. And then those people would be kind of at the end of this year placed on that scale. That's what costs $281,000. And then they would get a step like everybody else if the board accepts this proposal. Our plan is to have Evergreen present, I think virtually, for our first budget work session to present that proposal to the board. So if you do the quick math, that's $888,000 for compensation that we're proposing, which is about $750,000 above what the state said they would give us. So again, that's a result of our MOU and local funding, and hopefully if the state ups their game on the salary end, we'll be able to adjust and even do more than this. Another huge piece in employee compensation that everybody's anxious to see is there's no increase projected for health insurance rates for next year. Huge. So thank you to finance folks and magic pencils. Okay, so moving on from compensation to other priorities. So the school board has received their budget workbooks, and within that, we have requested some positions. I haven't laid out all the positions, I'm just kind of giving you an overview of the areas. The first one is, I am going to name specifically, and that is because it's directly tied to so many of the board priorities. And that is looking at a director of innovative learning. So basically we take our current director of technology and divide that into two positions, a director of IT and a director of innovative learning. All of our surrounding divisions have that same makeup right now. And I think we would grow leaps and bounds in our innovative learning and technology instructionally if we had that opportunity. We have some positions in the area of special ed, student family support, ESL, and business services as well. So when we look at enhancing instruction, just like I was talking about, we have the Virginia Profile of Future Ready Graduates, and that would support that initiative from the state by providing innovative learning and using technology to extend and enhance student learning, work-based learning, and connecting CTE programs with our community to make sure that students who come out of our CTE programs are what's the right word? Employable, that's not, it's employable, but I want to say ready for employment, there we go. We also want to be ready to provide specialized instruction to ensure success. We have the great Miss Toyota right there, see there, she's featured right there, with her Title I reading group at the middle school, her Torch kids, we have some special ed, we have some gifted, and we have ESL, really important that we provide strong services in all those areas. And then we want to make sure we're supporting curriculum improvement. As I mentioned, the Virginia Literacy Act, new literacy materials are coming down the pike, and an adoption, hopefully. We'll have something approved this evening in that area, but these things cost money to implement for sure. Other items in the budget are capital items that support classroom instruction. You'll see in your budget books some requests for desks and tables and a couple additional playground equipment pieces. We have had upgrades at all our elementary playgrounds, and they have a couple needs for other things. We have some band instruments, and those are like middle school band instruments that are, somebody help me with like one of the names of them, the big. Tuba. Why couldn't I come up with that, right? And science equipment. Additionally, we have capital items that support facility maintenance and transportation, HVAC controls, boilers. There's a line item in there for kitchen equipment for the high school. The high school has some of their original to the building ovens. So 64, 65, older than me. So it's pretty old. Athletic facility upgrades, there's a line in there, and some transportation upgrades too. All right, so that brings us to the budget numbers. Okay, what does it mean to be balanced? So it's really, so the budget is complicated, but I like to make it simple. It's really just a little math problem, right? So we look at what we need and we want, and we look at our revenue, and we make it match. But Troy told me it's really not that simple. So, you know, we have to pick and choose, we have to prioritize, and we base our priorities based on all those things that I've just talked about. And so, you know, it's sort of like at my house, if I want to renovate, I have this whole list, but I only have this much money in my account. So I have to figure out which of those things are the most important. But then if Mike comes along and says, well, that one's not as important, then I have to pull something out to put something else in. And so that's what we will be doing as part of this budget process. Pushing and pulling, picking and taking to make it work for our kids. Okay, so now we're going to talk about buckets of money. So we have a federal bucket, we have a state bucket, we have a local bucket, and my favorite is the other bucket. Okay, so these are sources of revenue. So we have federal funds, and we're going to have an increase of about $300,000 projected for federal funds, and that includes our titles. I call them the titles. Titles 1 and 4 are reading and math, specialized instruction and intervention. Title 2 is professional development. Title 3, ESL, and then special education. And then as we talk about the state bucket, there are some things that impact the state bucket. One is average daily membership, and you can see that average daily membership has increased, and that means a little more money for us. The other piece that impacts is our local composite index has changed. And it's basically an indicator of a locality's ability to pay. And it's a confusing kind of thing. So basically, in the 22 to 24 biennium, it was 0.4160. And in the 24 to 26 biennium, it's 0.4026. And so basically what this means is for every $100,000 right now, we have to pay $40,000, right? $40,260. And the state would pay, where are my numbers here? $59,740. And so what's the difference? Why is that better? Because for every $100,000, we get to keep an extra $1,340 in our pocket. And then if that's over $10 million, that's $134,000. We'll take it, right? So it's a little better. Is that simple math? Close enough? So state funds, we're anticipating an increase of a little over $1 million. And this is basic A, standards of quality funded positions. That's what I was just talking about, the local composite index, how those are funded. And in addition to that, there are a whole lot of other things that state funds provide us. Gifted, special ed, BPI, at-risk remediation, ESL, and then Social Security retirement group life, for a total of $24,835,482. It's a big old bucket, right? Our next bucket is our local funds. And so this is what I was talking about, the MOU provides us. We have a certain percentage of certain funds from the city that are directly allocated to us. We're anticipating an increase of a little over $2 million in that for next year over this year. But then there's also a fund balance decrease. And so for the 22-23 year, get this right, Melissa. So it's every other year you get to keep the fund balance from the year before. Correct. And so next year, the bottom line is that we have about $1 million decrease in our beginning fund balance. And that is really a direct result of all of the ESSER money and the pandemic money being no longer available. Okay, then we have our other fund bucket, and a lot of this goes to Colleen with technology. And those are E-rate funds that cover Comcast service, the fiber that runs underground, physical equipment that runs internet in our buildings. And she's going to be proposing some larger upgrades for next year. And this is a reimbursable amount, so she'll make more requests and hopefully receive more funding. All right, so those are our buckets of money coming to us. So our revenue sources, basically we have 42.8% in state funds, 44.7% in city funds, 6.4% in federal, 1% in other, and then a 5.2% beginning fund balance. Okay, so here's kind of a summary chart of all that. So this is just showing you all the buckets we just talked about, how those are changing. So an estimated revenue increase overall of 3.6 million, with beginning fund balance decrease, with a net revenue increase of 2.6 million. And then just like I've already discussed, these are the areas that we want to spend that on. Compensation, some new positions, capital requests for schools and technology, capital requests for maintenance and transportation, and then the remainder to go in the contingency reserve and CIP reserve. And we're going to talk specifically about the tech center HVAC project here in just a minute. I'll spend just a quick minute on that. Okay, so now we've talked about revenue, now we're going to talk about expenditures. And so here's just a quick summary of expenditures compared to what's proposed for next year as it relates to this year, and then the increase or decrease. And now here we are on the capital improvement plan. So 22-23, 23-24, those are fully funded. Those are the fine arts wing and the renovation of the school counseling area of the main office and the security, the new secure entrance and the clinic and whatnot at the high school that is wrapping up. And by the way, I went in there this afternoon and they started moving into the offices. It's amazing. For the 24-25 year, about $700,000 of that is already earmarked for the switchgear that y'all are familiar with, that we've talked about for the high school that still needs to be completed. The remainder of that amount would be what we're proposing for the HVAC replacement for this building. Let me talk about that for just a minute. So because of the increased funding, we have this HVAC project. The HVAC in this building is original to the building, so 1980. And it's projected to cost around $4 million to replace it. And part of the reason that it's so expensive is they have to have an architect come in and reconfigure some of it because the building isn't used in the same way it was when it was originally built. Some of the spaces need to be heated and cooled that have not been heated and cooled prior to now. So basically, for the 2023 year, we have a little over $1 million from CIP. We anticipate $650,000 going in at the end of June, and we would like to earmark or propose to earmark $1.3 million for next year, which would give us a total amount of about a little over $3 million that would get us hopefully off to a really great start without having to borrow money for this big HVAC project. And so these will certainly be some of the things that we'll want to discuss with the board as we continue through work sessions. So what are our next steps? In just a minute, we will talk about budget work session dates. We'll have, like I said before, the presentation by Evergreen at our first budget work session to look at the salary study for non-teaching positions. We'll have a public hearing on the budget at the February 27th board meeting where members of the community can have the opportunity to speak about their concerns or wishes about the budget. We will have board approval of the budget at the March board meeting, and then we will forward our completed budget to the city at the end of March. You know, I always want to let people know how grateful I am for their hard work, and there's been a lot of hard work going into this process thus far. From the finance department on the city side, creating the revenue estimates, certainly the administration, the school board's getting ready to work hard on this. But as I was just, thinking about how to close out, when I got up this morning, I was reading a devotional. It talked about a blacksmith and his piece of iron and his anvil. And it talked about him heating up. He knew what he wanted to make, right? And he just had this piece of iron, and he knew he had to heat it up, and he had to pound it, with his hammer and shape it the way he wanted to. And I love that kind of analogy about shaping it, because I feel like it's our responsibility to shape this budget into what we need for our students so that our students can be successful. Again, using that guiding premise of we're making all of these decisions based on what is best for our students. We have great students, we have a great school division, and certainly our intent is to continue down that path. So thank you all for your time, and look forward to continuing this process with you all.
Thank you. All right, so a couple items that we do need to address kind of for approval. One is that we will have the public comment period as part of the February 27th meeting. And then the second one is the potential dates for our budget work session. I think those were distributed, tentative dates of February 13th at 8:30, February 27th at 4 p.m., March 8th at 8:30 a.m., and then March 11th at 8:30 a.m. And kind of plan those as tentative, and we'll use them as we need. So do I have a motion to, I guess we should probably do two separate motions. One to set the public comment period for February 27th. Do I have a motion for that?
To set the public comment period for the next.
For the next, yeah.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Mr. Kapinskis,
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba, Ms. Tremblay,
Yes.
Ms. Woody,
Yes.
Mr. Neese.
Yes. And then a motion to adopt these dates for budget work sessions. Do we have any issues with those as potential dates?
So moved.
Second? Second.
Mr. Kapinskis,
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba,
Yes.
Ms. Tremblay,
Yes.
Ms. Woody,
Yes.
Mr. Neese.
Yes. Moving on to item C, the textbook adoption for English language arts.
I'm gonna ask Dr. Newman to present on this. They've done extensive work, and while he's making his way to the podium, I'm super grateful for him and his leadership in this area.
All right, thank you very much. And as you said, obviously I'm the one that you're talking today, but a lot of this work has been done by Ms. Smith, our elementary reading specialist, Ms. Sonia Lee, who's our secondary reading specialist, and then a lot of a big team of teachers and specialists across the division have been a big part of this. And talking about kind of segueing from the board presentation, kind of when these things come up, last few years we've done a big shift to split our coaches from to not just having one for the whole K-12, but an elementary reading and math coach and a secondary reading math coach. And with all these things coming at us from the state right now, without those in place, we'd be at such a disadvantage. So a lot of that stuff that you guys have been working on, we see that really helping our school so much. So being able to work through this with our coaches and specialists has made this process much more manageable. So the point tonight is to kind of talk to you about what the state's asking us to do, kind of where we are in that journey, and then looking for you guys to help us for the next step. So, let's see if my little clicker here works. There we go. So as you know, the Digital Literacy Act, was passed in 2022 and expanded in 2023. It started off focusing on K through 3, and now it goes all the way through 8th grade. The kind of core of it is each school board shall provide a program of literacy-based instruction that is aligned with science-based reading instruction, reading research, and provides evidence-based literacy instruction to students in K through 8. So essentially building a reading program around science of reading for our kids in K through 8. A big piece of this is the VLA was required then to recommend to schools a list of approved curriculums, approved series that the school divisions could choose from to implement that instruction. So that's kind of what's been going on over the last year. So as a division, what we have to do then is go through the Virginia Department of Education approved core instructional programs and pick one of those for use in the 2024 to 2025 school year and beyond. So this tiny print, these are lists of, they came up with 10 different programs that we could choose from to look at. If you look at theirs, if you notice, some of them say K through 3, some of them say 4 through 5. Some programs were approved for all K through 5 use, some programs were only approved for lower grades, some for upper grades, and so we kind of had to sort through that. So that was proposed by the state in this fall, and then a final list was put out in this winter, and we had to go through that to make a decision for Colonial Heights Public Schools. So this all kind of started actually last spring. Ms. Ratliff sat down with us and with the reading committee looked at what we do in Colonial Heights, that classic question, what do we do well, what do we need to improve on? And looking at our reading instruction. And that kind of guided us into what we want to do reading, but also kind of guided us as we got into the Digital Literacy Act. And we looked at saying we felt we were very strong in our fundamental reading instruction, very strong with our phonics, very strong in our lower grades and small group reading instruction, but we knew we needed help. We've seen that reflected in our reading scores over the last few years with our upper grade core curriculum, with our reading comprehension, with our vocabulary building. And as Ms. Ratliff pointed out, with our students coming to us with different challenges, different needs, a lot of that goes with students who struggle with comprehension, with language, with being exposed to complex text. We needed to find ways so regardless of what the Virginia wanted us to do, we knew that's what we needed to do as a division to kind of push learning forward. So we left that meeting in May and said, okay, you know what, we're looking for something that, we looked for curriculums, obviously whatever's approved by the state, but what fits our philosophy, what fills in gaps that we know we have, and then we want to make sure we're taking input from all levels, making sure everybody in the division who needs to be is involved in this process. So, we talked a lot about science of reading, kind of what that looks like, and this is it's called literally the simple view of reading. What does it mean to be a successful reader? The end goal is reading comprehension, right? That means you're able to process what you read and can understand it. So there's two parts, word recognition and language comprehension, and it's a multiplication problem. So for those who, as Dr. Burnett, the math people would tell us, is if either one of those things you're multiplying is less than 1, the value will be less than the first value. So word recognition is 1, we rock them in there, but we only have half of language comprehension, our product is going to be lower than 1, and that's obviously not what we want. So our division felt like we have a lot of strengths, we've done a lot of work, our teachers, you guys have seen it, I know Mr. Neese came last year and watched some of the action at Lakeview. There's a lot of really great work doing with decoding and phonological awareness and really building that fundamental reading instruction. Our small group instruction, that we've seen, talked to other schools in the state, we have a really strong foundation there. But we know we need more work with our background knowledge and vocabulary, and those demands being placed on our students have gotten higher and higher from the state. We know we need to kind of improve that area. So we knew language comprehension, that second piece, was really a focus for us as we went into this process. So we didn't want to stop doing the good stuff we were doing, but we need to strengthen up the second piece over here. So kind of this fall, here's how we attacked it. Starting in August, Ms. Stiff and Ms. Lee started going through the list of approved curriculums from the state. Originally, it was only a K through 3 list and then expanded over to a K through 5 list. Because one thing we felt like was very important to us, we did not want to have one program for K through 3, a different program for 4 or 5, which was an option. The state gave you that option, but we felt that was detrimental to our students to have to relearn an entire new process halfway through their elementary careers. So in September and October, Ms. Lee and Ms. Stiff started making contact with company sales reps, conducting phone interviews, collecting samples, and going through those lists and narrowing down to a top 3. We didn't feel like it was necessary to present an entire list to our staff. We wanted to make sure we found 3 programs at least that fit our needs and didn't throw out all the work we'd already done. There are some programs in other divisions, you may have seen it, adopt what we call, turnkey ready. You come up and on day 1, you hand your teacher a book, and here's your lesson plans for the entire year, and go. And for a division that doesn't have a really strong foundation in reading, it makes a lot of sense. But for us, we felt like we have a lot of really great things going. Our teachers have put in so much work the last few years to get to that point. We're not throwing that out altogether. We want to make sure something we could choose from will fit what we already do. So starting in November, when the reading committee got together, we reviewed the materials. We had a full presentations, these three companies gave presentations to our full reading committee. And we opened up the review. We had sample materials available for all homeroom teachers across K-5. In December, the VDOE officially approved the final list. The list at that point was just preliminary. We got the official final list from VDOE in December, and all the curriculums we had reviewed were on that list. And we put samples out for the community to review and provide feedback to us if the community had any feedback or wanted to come in and view any of the samples. And then January, that's today, we are proposing adoption of one of these series based on the feedback from our committee, our teachers, and our community. So here are the three companies we brought in for presentations. Our final three curriculums were as follows. The first is Amplify CKLA. This is a very rigorous knowledge-based curriculum that is core curriculum for our students. It is one that has components where you can just focus on a core whole group, so to speak, curriculum, but not still use our already developed small group and phonics instruction. The second was Benchmark, and Benchmark structured similarly to Amplify, where you can use their whole group curriculum, but not get rid of their phonics instruction we have going in our division. Benchmark is one that has an older curriculum they are currently updating to kind of get more in line with science of reading, but some of the K-3 stuff is not fully aligned with science of reading. And the final was Imagine Learning, which is a same thing, again, a knowledge-based curriculum. It is very digitally based. It's got a heavy digital content to it, which is something that we consider when we looked at. But those were the three we felt like best fit our needs as a division, fit our needs for vocabulary instruction, fit our needs for reading comprehension, fit our needs for knowledge building, but did not make us get away from some of the stuff we already had going on that's very strong. So there's a link here, as I shared with you guys, and a link that is live on the website where we had it available for teachers and community to view samples of all the different curriculums. So the reading committee, just so you know how it's comprised, it started in spring of 2023. It was formed including one K-2 teacher from each elementary school, someone in grades 3 through 5 from each elementary school, all our reading intervention teachers, so our Title I teachers, our literacy extension teachers from each school, our division reading specialists, and instructional administrators. So obviously principals are also invited to participate when available, and obviously principals can always come to every meeting, but they were part of the process as well. In the fall this year, we added a middle school teacher to the committee, and also a middle school Title I teacher, because with the VLA extending K through 8, plus there's also consideration, some of these curriculums do have 6th grade components we talked about, which is a consideration for us if we want to bring into the middle school as well. So the process was, last year May, we met to review our current practices, talk about what we needed going forward, and I think that's very important. The state is telling us we're supposed to do this. However, we have some needs. Our philosophy driving this was not what the state's telling us we have to do, but we know we need to do for our kids, right? What's best for our students. Fortunately, the state is asking us to do this, and it fits, and also the state, through All in Virginia, is providing us some extra funds to make this happen, so we can do it right now. But our whole focus was what's best for our students and what's best for our needs here as a division. In September, the VLA, we looked at updates, and we met with our reading committee and said, okay, what are our priorities? Let's rank 1 through 10. What do we need when we look for a curriculum? What is our priorities of our division? In November 8th, we got the committee together to update on our progress and to prepare for our vendor sessions. We set dates for when we could bring in the vendors that came to North Elementary and provided full presentations for our whole committee. In December, we had those meetings, and they came in, it was 2 to 3 hour presentation where they walked through what the program looked like. Teachers could look at samples, they could play with it, ask questions to the actual representatives from the companies to really dig into those programs. And then in December, we met at North again to review the presentations and discuss as a committee kind of where things stood and what we thought about the programs that point. So real quickly here's kind of, these are directly from the reading committee. We asked them to kind of work around the room, classic student progress, give us your pros and cons, what do we look at? So Amplify, the pros, the committee felt like it was very content rich, it was rigorous. The phonics and word study were connected to it. So even in 4th and 5th grade, phonics and word study were still part of that process for the older students. We like the fact that they can purchase only parts they need. There is a skills-based, Amplify provides a skills-based program for the lower grades, but we felt like that was superfluous because we already have that so strong in our low grade, they don't need to buy that and spend a bunch of extra money on a program that we don't need to implement. A lot of teachers like the writing part of the integrated. Writing is a huge need for our students and across the whole Commonwealth. The decodable books in K through 2 fit very nicely with what we're already doing in K through 2. Keeping our current phonics instruction we talked about, and really builds that background knowledge. Some of the cons were all these programs are knowledge-based or knowledge building, so they bring in things about science associates that are not necessarily directly aligned with what our kids are learning with science at the time. So there is some crossover there, but we'll explain kind of what the philosophy is behind that later. Some felt it was very rigorous as a negative, and that's how hard is hard, and the idea is how do we scaffold it to meet our kids' needs. It was taught through topics and it's time intensive in some upper grades, and they felt like some of the student text was not very colorful. Benchmark, people felt it was very user friendly, has lots of resources. It was workbook based and not screen time. A lot of our kids have spent a lot of time on screens the last few years, which is the way of the times, but trying to get some kids off that is important to teachers. They did like it was colorful and purposeful. They did feed our reading standards, as all these programs fit our reading standards. They liked they had data collection built in. Benchmark though, you were a little more locked into what you had to purchase, which some people felt like was a little bit restrictive. Their student books were not durable for lower grade. They felt like the elementary kids would have a hard time working through them. There's a lot of materials that people felt it was overwhelming. And unfortunately, in the lower grade, some of the reading materials were not science of reading aligned, so it wasn't necessarily aligned with what our current instruction looked like. And so people had some concerns about the curriculum there. The last one was Imagine. People did like the writing and intervention parts that were included. They liked the trade books being the read aloud books that went along with the program, and the data available with assessments felt was strong. Very easy to use. You could break it up and purchase as what you needed to. It's very scripted, which tells teachers say this, which some people liked, and had simpler modules. Some teachers felt like the teacher manual was very hard to use, and they felt like there were some spelling errors, and it just wasn't professionally put together, which teachers kind of raised some red flags, obviously. If you have a spelling error in your curriculum and your fifth grade teacher looks at that, that's going to be it. Trust me, I can tell you that. The red markers came out. All right, so we asked teachers, we said, okay, rank them, score number 1 for your favorite, number 2 for your second favorite, 3 for your third favorite, class rank. And this is the way the scores came out. And as you look at it, it's kind of interesting. Amplify was everybody's, so you can imagine. Everybody's like, yeah. Imagine was almost exclusively number 2. Everybody liked it, it was fine, but it was all number 2s, a couple number 3s. No, only one number 1 ranking for Imagine. Benchmark was very polarizing. Several number 1s, but also several 3s. People kind of felt strongly. I think the Benchmark people felt was easy to use. Others felt like, in terms of rigorous aligned curriculum, maybe it was lacking in some areas. And then Amplify was the highest ranking. Amplify had the most number 1 rankings and only at least number 3 ranks. So it was they had the highest, it was clearly the highest rank amongst the people in the room. From there, we discussed it, and as a committee, the committee agreed that Amplify and Benchmark were our top 2 choices kind of leaving that meeting, so we went for some further investigation. We reached out to other divisions in the state who are already using these programs and tried to make connections and go see we felt like it's important for us to talk to and see what it looks like in the classroom so we know what we're getting ourselves into. We were able to, Arlington County Public Schools uses Amplify, and we were able to take a little field trip up there. Our bus driver, Mr. Ridley, did a great job getting us to and from Arlington very safely. So we could spend they're very accommodating, spend an entire day at a school that very much looked like a lot of our schools. Very heavy, very diverse population, actually very higher even than us. The ESL population, we watched how Amplify looked like in kindergarten classroom, 5th grade classroom, and 3rd grade classroom. Ms. Stiff made contacts with several different Benchmark divisions and spoke to several on the phone. Not any of them were willing to host us, which is was kind of a concern for us, to be honest with you. And actually, one of the divisions she spent a lot of time speaking on the phone with, her alma mater, Norfolk City Public Schools, they like Benchmark, but they said they only use it in grades 3 through 5 because of those lacking areas in the K through 2 skills, which for us is, we were very concerned with. We did not want a program that was not going to be work for our kids K through 5. So that was just, I think as we go in that further investigation, to kind of highlight some things for us. So we also then, emails were sent out to every K through 5 student division with links to the curriculum and samples, and then options to use samples at North if they wanted to, so they could really dig into it and get their hands in the content and see what they thought of it, and then ask for that feedback directly to myself, directly to Ms. Stiff or the principals. The reading committee members were a huge part of this process, back at schools, answering questions, talking to teachers. We had a representative from every school went with us to Arlington and talking about what they saw and kind of becoming that conduit for information for the schools. And then a posting was put on Facebook and the division website asking for public feedback. And again, offering if any of the public want to set up a time for me to go visit North and see the program, but also, textbook adoption review has become so much easier thanks to the internet, because you now can go on to a link and see all the different resources right there on your computer. So what that led us to is our division, looking at our reading committee feedback, speaking with our administration. Amplify CTLA is the program we're bringing to you guys, hoping for adoption. It was a high preferred choice of our reading committee, and from teacher feedback. We feel it best addresses our needs identified by our committee, instructional staff, and teachers. It is rigorous, it is knowledge-based, but our students need those. Students need to be, we believe our students can rise to that level if we're providing the opportunity for rich content, rich text, and that knowledge-based curriculum. Very important to us, can be effectively paired with our current successful practice. We have a lot of great stuff going on in our classrooms, in reading, with our phonics instruction, with our science and reading instruction, and this would pair with that to strengthen what we already do. Amplify goes back to Professor Edie Hirsch at University of Virginia actually started this thing almost go back to the 80s, the idea of cultural literacy, the idea that there are certain things that we need to know to be successful in society. That's, again, for our point for our students is what do they need to do to be successful when they leave Cornelius Public Schools? And it's funny, actually, as Virginia's, Professor Hirsch was teaching at a community college, and he was teaching kids, they were reading a passage about the Civil War, and the kids were struggling. These are college students, and they were having trouble reading this text. He said, well, why can't you understand this? They said, well, this text talks about, Ulysses Grant and Robert E. Lee, and the kids didn't know who those people were. They had no context for who these individuals were. And because they had no context, they had no idea how to read this passage. We looked at some of our students, and students have been given intensive reading instruction, reading interventions, all this great work, but then they lack some of those vocabulary pieces, some of those content knowledge, some of that real world experience. And then when their text gets placed in front of them, it's hard. And we see our kids, they get to upper grades and they get into some of the very heavy content material, not having that background. I can, great example, 5th grade at Lakeview, a teacher was talking about erosion. He gave an example, think about the ocean, and students said, well, I've never seen the ocean. I don't have any context there. So there's an important piece of making sure our kids have access to the best possible materials. It is going to be a learning curve in these programs, but at the end, we need to make sure we give our kids what they need to be successful and give them the opportunity to encounter these rich texts, to develop that strong vocabulary. So we can combine, going back to the original idea, combine that strong sense we have of phonological awareness of phonics with that language comprehension to make our kids truly, truly great readers. And that's what we're asking for right now. So where would that go for us? So we have been working with Amplify about getting quotes. We've asked the poor representative from Amplify, okay, how about, give me this quote here, give me this next quote. We give you all the different options, looking at what is the best combination of materials, including professional development, including materials for our teachers, including what makes sure we cover all the grade levels we need to cover. So getting together the exact package we need to purchase. I see Ms. Linda's ears perking up when I talk about purchase. We're working with Amplify to make purchase agreements and then prevent professional development. Because again, no matter, Amplify may be the greatest program in the world, but if we don't prepare it for our teachers and they're not ready to implement it on day one for a kid, it's not going to be effective. So this is a little small, but if you walk through here, here's kind of the steps here as what we're doing here. Talk about step one in May was the background. That's where we get the first gathered committee together to kind of talk about what we do. And again, what's guiding us in this process is not the state says we have to. So what do we need to do as Colonials, and then using the funding from the state to make that happen. So it kind of is a good timing for us. Some of the work, I know our teachers have spent the last 3 years working on science and reading stuff, and I know it's been hard, but we're in such a good space to make this next step. August was to research the different programs out there. September was to bring the committee back together and kind of talk about where we were and prepare ourselves for the selection of a committee, selection of a program. September, October, Ms. Stiff and Ms. Lee spent a lot of time on Zoom meetings, connecting with different representatives and going through really researching different programs and figuring out what was best for our kids. November, we reviewed the programs. We had presentations from 3 different companies came to Colonial Heights and gave us these presentations. And we then, as a committee, got all together an open discussion to talk about what we felt like was best for our kids. And then December also, we asked for feedback from our teachers and for our community. Obviously, number 8 is January, as we're here, we're finalizing this process, asking for approval from the school board to move forward. And then the next step from there would be in January, February, we need to hopefully with board approval, begin the purchase of the program. In March, we have a professional development day, and the idea is to introduce some of this to our teachers and get teachers kind of on board with this. We know there's a lot for teachers to do, but to get this school year, so we're not going to overwhelm anybody, but we also don't want teachers walking into next August and being hit with a whole new idea. So there's a lot of stuff in the state that is changing, so our goal is to make sure teachers are prepared to make that shift as we go forward. In summer, starting the summer into August, to train teachers in the new program. Luckily, a lot of these programs, because they are core knowledge, they come with materials already. Teachers are not gonna hopefully have to spend all their planning time running copies and deciding, finding books. The stuff will be provided for you. Teachers can hopefully then spend their planning time looking at the materials and talking about which ones are we gonna work on today. How am I gonna introduce this to my class? And actually really talking about instructional conversations and not saying, I gotta make 75 copies of this text before next period, and what am I gonna do? So that's the idea, getting teachers familiar with it. A lot of work this summer, Ms. Stiff and I, Ms. Lee and I, Mr. Ridley and I, breaking down materials and dividing it into schools, because whatever we purchase, you're gonna get a big old truck coming here in Conway Heights. We're going to have a lot of reading materials this summer, which we're excited about, but it's gonna be a lot of work. And then fall 2024, when the kids show up in school to implement the new materials, and it will be a process that, it's not gonna be beautiful from day one. The idea is this is a long-term process. This is what we think our kids are gonna really benefit from and make them successful readers, not only at the kindergarten level or the first grade level, but successful colonials as they go through their time here in Conway Heights. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or Ms. Stiff is here, she's the true expert, if you have any questions for her. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Actually, I'd be interested in hearing perspective from the elementary principals, as they haven't gone through, seeing the teachers go through the process. If you all have any comments on this.
Not really. Our teachers, they reviewed it. The reading team reviewed it. There isn't a perfect program. And this is coming from our information. This is the best program for our division.
Yeah, I think the part of it is as he was talking about the background knowledge and the vocabulary piece that a lot of our students really lack. This, I think, will provide some of that for us to help them reach those levels that we need to get them to.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the community feedback. I see in our packet, you've outlined the questions that were asked of the community, and I think you said it was posted to social media and to the division website. I didn't see anything in here about what feedback there was.
I'll be honest, there wasn't a ton of direct feedback to me. I did get actually just today, someone writing me how much they liked Amplify and were excited about it. So a lot of people shared, there were some shares and some views and I offered, if you want to come look at it, to come see it. But like I said, so much of it is now they can see it themselves and they can look at it themselves. They didn't have to come to the school or sit up time with me. So we did get a ton of community feedback. But like I said, I did get some feedback, and one parent today just told me to Amplify. So but we want to make sure that, even if we didn't get a ton of responses, make sure that the community was, because it's a state required adoption, we don't have to get community feedback. We want to make sure the community had every opportunity to view it and to look at it for many assessments for, because we didn't want to, this is a big purchase, it's a big part of our kids' lives for the next 6 years. So I'll make sure that they had their ability to either hands-on look at it and share it if they had any questions. And still, if you have any questions, I gave my phone number, direct line, call me, or I'd be happy to walk in there through it.
Any other questions? So we need a motion to approve moving forward with this feedback. Okay, do you have a motion to adopt Amplify as the reading curriculum?
I make a motion to adopt. A second?
Mr. Kapiskas?
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba? Yes. Ms. Tremblay?
Yes.
Ms. Woody? Yes. Mr. Neese?
Yes. Moving on to the financial summary.
Good evening. On behalf of the finance department, we put on behalf of the finance department, we put the financials for November and December. Your revenue, your expenditures, disbursements.
We also included the CIP, and I did want to note, in talking and preparing the budget, with our fund balance carryover, we did decide to put $650,000 of our fund balance carryover into the CIP. That number is not reflected in your December 31st number, but I'll put that in January. So I apologize that I failed to put that in there for you. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the financial summary for November and December?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Kaminskis?
Yes.
Ms. Katuba? Yes. Ms. Tremblay?
Yes.
Ms. Woody? Yes. Mr. Dees?
Yes. All right, moving on to item 12 for unfinished business. Item A is the 5-year Clarence Public School Capital Improvement Project List.
That's Troy, if he'll take this one.
Think that, Superintendent already, touched on a number of the things that are included in here during the budget presentation. But in its simplest sense, this 5-year capital project plan is a list of, large capital building projects and expensive maintenance projects that we kind of have put placeholders over the next 5 years to start to look at those particular issues. And I'll walk through that in a little bit greater detail. I think there is one particular project the superintendent mentioned that this document will kind of focus on in the short term. And I think there's a way that we're going to be able to fund that. These are typically projects that are very expensive, that require working with the city, and the city issues some form of debt, usually bonds, sometimes some other bank loans. If you take, for example, the high school projects that we're almost done with, and should be by the end of the month, that was over $10 million. And that entire project was funded through a number of resources. It was state funding, it was federal funding, there was some city funding, and it was your capital project reserve fund that were all built up over time to be able to address that particular need. So this 5-year capital plan that we will send over to the city if you approve it, will be rolled up into their citywide 5-year capital project plan, so everybody can have all the information available to them to start to focus on what are the critical needs in the city and in the school division, and then how to attack it from a financial standpoint to bring those projects to fruition. This document, the 5-year plan, has a total of $34,856,000 of projects. 30% of that number is funded, and that is high school projects, the fine arts wing, and the front entrance and admin. There is $24,568,000 of projects in this document that are not funded at this point. And those particular projects that are not funded at this point are going to be the Plain Heights High School Student Commons and Dining and Food Preparation area. And that's $5.5 million. A Lakeview classroom expansion at $3.9 million. The auxiliary gym for the high school at a little over $6 million. The North Elementary Music and Art Room addition, $1.7 million. And another project that was listed this year is some athletic facility enhancements. Not some of the things that the superintendent has put in the budget to go through the work sessions and address, but this would be a new turf field and an 8-lane track. We have pushed that project out a number of years. I think we've got a lot of discussion on that. But that is $2.7 million is the estimate. I think the main thing to focus on is going to be some of the unfunded capital maintenance projects. And the main one is here at the Tech Building, the HVAC replacement of the 1980 system. That's estimated to be over a little over $4 million. And the superintendent already put that in the budget presentation. And that's going to be mainly a buildup of funds over a number of years in the capital project reserve fund. You know, certainly including this budget year where you have approved the budget to put some money into it, and then the 24-25 budget that you'll be reviewing over the next month or so. It's got another 1.3 million to go into the capital project reserve fund to address that particular project. The page following the summary kind of gives you some general information on the debt that the school division is already paying. And that relates back to the elementary school expansions, probably around 2006, 2007, and then 2016, we had the high school bleachers, North Elementary drop off, and a number of other projects. And then 2018, there was the locker room and a number of other projects over at the high school. So we still have some debt related to those projects that we're paying over a number of years. There's a little summary schedule of when those particular debts are going to be done away with and paid for, and give a little breathing room to look at some other projects. But if you approve this document, the items listed in it and the particular years that it's scheduled for, we will send that over to the city manager. They can roll it up into their discussions and conversations for the citywide 5-year capital plan. And there would be certainly a number of discussions to take place down the road if there's going to be a way to fund any of these $20-some million of unfunded projects at this point. Again, the budget and the capital project reserve fund, I think there's an opportunity to address a significant maintenance project at this point. That's the very old HVAC that we have here that is still functioning, but we don't know how much longer, and we certainly don't want a major interruption of operations at any point. So there's many benefits to moving forward with that project. It'll benefit the staff and students in this building. So I'd be glad to answer any questions on this document.
Questions? The main commitment here would be the HVAC. Everything else is kind of forward-looking potential.
Yeah.
Starting to save a lot. Okay. We have a motion to adopt the CIP plan.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Penskis,
Yes.
Ms. Kachuba.
Yes.
Ms. Tremblay.
Yes.
Ms. Woody.
Yes.
Mr. Neese.
Yes. All right, moving on to reports, item 13. Is it Officer Superintendent?
Yeah, I have a few items that I want to mention tonight. One is that the teachers and staff members of the year for 24-25 have been selected, and I just want to mention those. We have high school, Dan Pulskamp and Robert Barnum, middle school, Beth Christie and Laura Brewer, Lakeview, Wendy Jones and, Ann Patrone. North, we have Dalla Serna and Regina Swift, and Tussing, we have Corey Johnson and Donna Barber. And then Beth Christie was our division teacher of the year. And so we will honor these folks at convocation in the fall, and then we'll have them come to the September board meeting.
Yes.
So that we can formally recognize them, but I just wanted to mention that. The reason we do it so early is because the process to choose a regional and state division teacher of the year for the following year, they have to turn in all of that information in January. And so that's why we have to choose it now. So I just wanted to formally or go on record as formally being very appreciative of the emergency management team in Colonial Heights and having the opportunity to be included and coordinate with them when we had that big windstorm coming through. And they provided great guidance to us, and I have learned in my first few months here that they're a very valuable part of the team and providing guidance to JP and myself as we look to weather events. So very grateful for those. We do have the division spelling bee on Thursday night at North, which is always an exciting time. We were talking about that earlier, and I think we have several board members that have an interest in that. We are going to have an open house to for the public to see the renovations at the high school and the new fine arts wing. And that is scheduled for February 21st from 4 to 6. We hope we'll have some student guides that can take members of the community through to see the new areas. We do have an inclement weather date, just in case, on February 28th. And I believe Stephanie's gonna put something out, Maura? To let the community know. We'll send some invitations out to our city partners to make sure that they're invited. We have the Hall of Fame recognition, Friday night, halftime of the basketball game, and the Hall of Fame dinner or banquet and induction on Saturday night. And I believe that's all I have. Oh, we have our Corner Pride video. Pride Days and really appreciate the schools supporting it. And the Red Out was a lot of fun. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of Business Services?
I don't have anything else. I would just wanna make sure I mention, the amount of work that Melissa Lynch and Betty Ross put into the budget and innovations, along with this, accounting upgrade and payroll upgrade. They've just been working tremendous hours, and I really appreciate everything. That's all I have, thanks.
Yes, very much appreciated. Everything that goes into that. Okay, Office of Instructional Services.
We came to you guys a while back as we worked through the strategic plan and we talked about your priorities and we outlined those priorities that you guys set forth in our board retreat. And so what we wanted to do tonight is just come back and let you know our action plan. One of those things we promised that we would do is come back and kind of give you an action plan of what we plan on doing in the timeline. And so from this step, we'll talk about a few of these highlights, a few of these in each strategy. But from here, we also want to come back in June and kind of let you know the progress that we're at and give you updates as we go through and talk about as we move forward, how we're going to make sure that we're attacking these goals that we have and what actions are we putting in place to make sure that we're reaching these things. And we talked about in the budget presentation tonight, the strategic plan guides what we want to do throughout. And so we're going to make this a part of our admin cabinet, our IS meetings, and our other instructional meetings that we have with principals so that we make sure that we're on track to accomplish these goals, not just have them on paper. And so one of the first strategy that we have is to engage students in relevant learning and real life activities experiences. And so one of the things that we want to start immediately and try to do is at the high school collaborate with division instructional leaders to evaluate options for online courses. We want to make sure that we're providing our students with the best opportunities possible. And so we're looking into those things so that we have the options as they do course selections now. But as we go through that, we have options for those kids coming through for next year and going forward, that those kids have that. And one of the other things is that we want to evaluate the high school elective offerings to determine if they're meeting the needs of our local job market. So we want to make sure that we're analyzing the local job market to make sure that our elective courses are meeting those needs that's out there, so our kids are employable and they have the relevant skills to go into the workforce at that time. Looking at strategy 2, enable students to develop life-ready skills to become a thoughtful reader, an effective writer, critical thinker, and a creative problem solver. One of the things we want to do is that create a new teacher academy for our newly hired staff that will provide support and direction for new teachers, especially for a lot of our new teachers aren't coming through teacher prep programs. They're coming through alternative programs and those things, so they don't have that same background knowledge, or coming in, they need that extra support and mentorship. And so we want to create this new teacher academy, and that's something we want to do, is to start as early as going into next school year. And so one of the resources that we'll need for that is just a leader for that, and making sure that we provide that support so we can provide quality instruction to all of our students. Another thing that we want to look at is increase our extracurricular activities, such as computer club at the elementary level, summer Chromebook repair program. We had this program back before pre-COVID, and we had several students to be able to intern with our technology staff, and those valuable skills, because some of those kids now are about to graduate college or are graduating college. I remember them working when I was at North and coming through, but some of those skills and on-the-job training that they received, we want to make sure that we're providing that to our students. So we want to get back to that and providing that, so we're meeting that strategy that we have there. Strategy 3, provide external educational and networking opportunities through school and community partners. We want to increase our volunteers through connections with Fort Bragg Adams and the Colonial Heights Chamber of Commerce. One of the things we did pre-COVID is that we had the soldiers come over, and they provided different programs for all 3 elementary schools. And so we want to reestablish that partnership and get those soldiers back out. And the kids love it, and they love it. And so that partnership was very strong. We want to make sure we get that back going for our students. Also, we want to create a parent advisory team for the purpose of seeking ways to engage families and school community. And so within this team, we really want to understand what parents need. And so we have a committee and advisory team of the parents. We feel like they will share more ideas, and we can understand what we need to do to engage them more. And we want them to be more of a part of their child's education and just part of our school community in general. And so that's something that we're going to create with our new family resource coordinator here. Strategy 4, we will endorse and provide a certification path for our technology standards and for educators and the Virginia Digital Learning Integration Standards. So one of the things I talked to Mrs. Hearn about is that we want to provide our elementary teachers with a checklist for understanding those standards and making sure we're covering those things. So for example, I see some of our K-2 teachers here, and we would like to provide them with a checklist. It could be as simple as the skills that the kids need to be able to do before they leave, whether it's turn on their Chromebook, being able to find a website, and those pieces. So we want to make sure that we have that for teachers, so it's something that's very easy for them that they already do in class, but they know, like, okay, can my students do these things right here? Where do I focus on these things? And we can meet the requirements set up for the by the Department of Ed there. We also want to build partnerships between the high school computer science students and elementary students, create opportunities for them to come down and do hands-on lessons with the kids. While they're learning, they can pass that down to the elementary kids. We think that would be a good opportunity to have that partnership with the high school and elementary schools as we go forward. Strategy 5, teach students how to be safe and responsible consumers and creators of digital content. We're in a digital world now, and we want to make sure our students are doing the right thing, and we also want to make sure we're using all of those things effective. We did PD on AI, And we thought it was very good for all of our staff, had that option, and we're gonna continuously do those things. But a few of the things that we wanna make sure we do with an action plan is to conduct an annual tech summit for parents, so parents understand and they can help with the process that we're going through. We also want to create a database for at-home learning apps for parents so they can help their kids while they're at home. I hear all the time that we need help on that new math and those things, but we want to make sure that parents have all the resources they need to be able to help their students also. Strategy 6, ensure that students are physically and emotionally safe within school community so that individual is empowered to be engaged in academic and social learning. Several things there. The first thing would be in the budget we had to look at hiring a full-time translator to help across the division, whether that's in registration, parent meetings, translating documents so that we can make sure that all students are engaged there. The other thing is to create a ESL newcomers class for middle school and high school students that start at level 1. We do a great job of clustering our kids into to having that program, but our newcomers are very different from our students that come in that are level 3 already or level 4 that are kind of, I had it down a little bit, but we're seeing an increase of students that come in as newcomers that they don't have any English at all. And so we want to make sure that we're providing everything to make sure those students can be successful. We can get those students a diploma. And so that's one of the things that we definitely want to focus on, and we're going to start talking about and develop that as we do our schedule reviews and we look at our schedule committees. Strategy 7, ensure that each student will learn to value and respect others in an ever-changing and diverse society. We're going to attack this while we created our mental health committee. But we also, we did a needs assessment. So we want to make sure we continue with that and we build upon that as we go into next school year. And we want to provide professional development for our staff about at-risk students and their needs. Sometimes we forget that part, and that's where we're going to have the most impact, is to make sure that we are giving our teachers the resources and tools they need to be able to identify and provide for those needs of our at-risk students. And strategy 8, provide safe, equitable, and modern facilities. One of the things that we just talked about in CIPs is comprehensive review of our athletic facilities, all facilities, and those conversations are happening. And sometimes, even though those things may be years away, you have to start having those conversations to really see where you want to get to and how we're going to get there, because it takes more than just a conversation with the funding. And so those conversations are starting. And then there was some strategy 9, attract and retain highly qualified and diverse staff who are supported and trained directly in student success and achievement. We've had this conversation about this one with the board, but also in our office a lot. And so one of the things we want to do is that we want to be able to empower our staff, support staff, to really help them to be able to obtain teaching degree if that's the path that they choose. And so we want to give that avenue there. And so we've started to talk about ways that we can do that. We also want to make sure that we're really out at job fairs, and we're doing everything we can to recruit and retain our teachers. And so that started. I have to say that in our office, we've already started to go through our recruitment materials and to really revamp those things and talk about what it's going to take to get people to our tables at the job fairs. We're visiting Longwood University on January 30th, and we're going to talk to the education department and to the dean, actually get to speak to some students. And so this will give us an opportunity to get ahead of some of the other divisions and really hope we can attract some of those to fill those open positions that we anticipate or that we have now. And then there's several other board priorities that we had that didn't fit into those strategies. But one of those things is creating an option for students to obtain an associate's degree while in high school. And so we've been working on that. I appreciate Mr. Strickler helping me with setting up some things and seeing where our teachers are and qualified. And we're going to start that process with the high school counseling team and the principal to really open those conversations up with several community colleges to make sure that we can have something in place for our students. And that may not be for our students that are AP students, but that is definitely our students that are maybe not even our college-bound students outside of it. I don't think they can, but we feel like we have that option there, and they have that option to get that associate's degree. We think that would be a good thing for them. So we're going to start that process of looking into that. We also want to make sure that we're creating a tiered system of discipline supports for students at all levels. And I worked in a division that did BTSS before, so I really understand tiered systems of support. And so I look forward to really helping this and to looking at that. And some of the comments that we had earlier was about some of our discipline policies and what do we do. And so as we look at that as a whole, I think we can be very consistent and fair across the board from K-12, and that will help us going forward. So we look forward to that. And some things we're going to put into place with, as we talk to our admin team through our admin retreat and those things that we go for next year. And so that's kind of our action plan, just kind of some of the highlights. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer those questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? I just want to express our gratitude for really moving this forward and really turning these items into meaningful action that we can actually see progress in. Okay. Office of Support Services.
So Lisa Walker's coming up here and will speak on the mental health services grant. So we were fortunate enough to receive this grant, $395,000, but I can use quickly, but I'll let her speak on it. I appreciate all the work on it.
So we applied for and we're one of 8 divisions to get this grant that will provide us with $395,000 to help with our mental behavioral health for our students and help with staff development for our teachers. We currently have counselors that work with all of our schools, but we have a lot of students that are underserved with this. So we will be providing counseling services at the school level in school setting at no cost to parents. And what had been happening is that students who receive Medicaid were able to get these services. A lot of other students were not, and their caseload is just so heavy, they're not able to see everyone they need to see. So we will be able to provide this for the rest of the school year. We will be also have a program called Early Risers, which will be elementary students who are having behavioral and mental health issues. And money will provide a person who will come in and work with them, work with families to provide family involvement and basically parenting classes. And there will be a summer program in June that we will work with, we hope, 15 students, and they will provide a therapist who will work with these students and aides also to help out with that. We will have a cognitive behavioral therapy program for middle and high school students who have had trauma in their lives, and so this will be counseling groups for them. And this will provide for mental health first aid training for teachers, and will give students who want to participate a stipend. So we have to spend all of this money by June 30th. So we are busily trying to put all these pieces in place.
We have a meeting Thursday with District 19 and then Friday with LifeBridge. So the hope is District 19 will help with the secondary piece and LifeBridge will help with the elementary piece. And we're just going to roll it out as quickly as we can. At first, we weren't sure that it had to be turned on so quickly. And there's another opportunity that may come about. And we had a meeting with Child Savers on Friday about a 2-year grant that would provide, similar to what is going on in Hopewell Richmond schools, and it would provide a school-based health center in a school, one of our schools. And then after 2 years, we would need to sustain it, which it was a great and exciting conversation. But then when we heard back today on the requirements, we realized there's other school divisions in talks. So it's like we need to win Child Savers so we can be the one to apply and try to win the grant too. So we'll be working on that as well.
Any questions?
Any questions on the grants?
Mr. Neese, I just want to say how grateful I am for Ms. Walker's grant writing skills and Ms. George's leadership in this. This will serve a lot of our students who are really in need, and so very grateful for their work on this.
So the Family Resource Coordinator is also submitting for the Family Resource Center grant, and we will get that to help create family engagement resources. The next Special Education Advisory Committee meeting is on Thursday, February 22nd at 6, and there's also the Family Engagement and Early Childhood Workshop with dinner and childcare at no cost if you register. And then we also have, the last thing is Project Peace. It's promoting employment after high school through community expertise. So we're working with the Partnership for People with Disabilities at BCU and receiving grant money for this to provide professional development to our staff at high school to support an in-house entrepreneurship, and also to recreate the community work-based experience for students with disabilities. And the first community conversation meeting is the same day as SEAC at 4:00.
Thank you so much. Again, reiterate Superintendent's comments. We really appreciate all the work that's gone into obtaining these grants. All right, moving on to school reports.
Good evening. Well, we're moving right along at Lakeview as usual. We're getting ready for our talent show on February 15th. So if you'd like to see some really, really good talent, then Lakeview is the place to be.
I was going to talk about the division spelling bee, but instead I'll just pull up the other presentation. It should take about 45 minutes. Just kidding, just kidding. So yeah, as Ms. Ratliff said, this spelling bee, the division bee, will be at North on Thursday at 6:30. So we're really excited to host that. 6?
It's been posted as 6.
Was it? I don't know things. So she said, that's good. Yes, that is right, 6 o'clock. Whatever's on there is what we've got, right? Yeah, good. Okay. And we are hosting our first Unity Day for our houses on Friday. So if you're around 2 o'clock, you want to come by, it's going to be a super fun time. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, next Friday, Testing Got Talent is back. Thank you, President Pelger, for allowing us to use the middle school. Doors open around 6, 5:45, 6. Get there early. It normally sells out, so make sure you get there early. And also like to publicly thank Columbia Heights Police Department and the Columbia Heights Education Foundation for partnering with us with our science club. We did make Channel 6 news, and we're really proud of our Tigers. Thank you.
Good evening. We are also rolling right along at the middle school. We are happy to have you. We are really enjoying Colonial Pride. We've even hung a special nail behind the security desk for the plaque that has returned to us. Feel free to come by and see it anytime. And if you would like some really great entertainment, please come to the middle school on Thursday, February 15th at 4 to watch our student athletes play our faculty in a basketball game. I've told them all I want them all to play, but they still have to come to work the next day. So that's all. We are excited to keep moving. CHMS is awesome, and thank you for your time.
And for the high school, just very briefly, we're in the final stages, obviously, of the grand construction project, and just very thankful to Kenny Harrell and his team and the support of the board and everyone at SAO for the project. And so by Thursday, the front of the building will be operational. So, and our long, lonely exile in the cafeteria will come to an end. So, it's just wonderful spaces. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any committee reports? Is Stephen up in front? Mr. Ferris?
Alright, so us students were adjusting to the new semester, and that comes with adjusting to the new fine arts wing, which I've heard a lot of feedback about that. It's really nice that students can have a space now. Those band students and our teachers in the drama as well can have bigger spaces. And now the hallway has been uncovered for the front entrance. I've heard a lot about that as well. My personal favorite addition to that is the collaborative spaces, excuse me. And those can be for clubs or teachers that want to do work with their students. I just think it's nice that we can have a space for clubs, seeing how important that they are to the high school.
Thank you. All right, 14 board member comments.
I would just like to say, I appreciate, I know it was a little lengthy, but I loved all the presentations and just the budget presentation, from the graphics to the information. I just feel like Heidi did a wonderful job with that. Thank you so much. And I'm excited about, the direction of where everything's going. The presentations that were done, very helpful, and just bringing everybody along for the collective vision. Very excited about the mental health grant. I'm just standing on my head about that, and just excited about all the things that are happening in the division and just the progress that's being made, and very excited for those who haven't seen the addition to the high school. I just think that's gonna be just a tremendous, encouragement to the teachers and the staff and the students, of course. So just wanted to say how much I appreciate all the work that was put in, and bringing us up to date.
Any other comments? All right, do I have a motion for adjournment? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.